I didn't know you were a drummer, Ying-Ying.
That music is so catchy that I cannot help myself, but honestly, I shouldn't do that.
Why not? My drummer friend Mike there would be very flattered that you're playing along with him.
Well, today we'll learn why you shouldn't use your chopsticks for drumming or anything else that is considered rude here.
I understand that there are a lot of rules about how to use and not use your chopsticks, yes?
Yep. And there are other things to consider when eating out with people that will help you look like a true master of the chopsticks or the quites.
We will also share some other pro tips about what constitutes good table manners in general, as well as give you a heads up about a few things you see that might surprise you.
And then we'll get some lunch.
Right on. All right, Ying-Ying, I know that chopsticks have their own rules, starting with how they're paired up. It's important to make sure that they're the same length, yes?
Right. This concept is called 三长两短.
三长两短. What's that mean?
That refers to an unequal length of chopsticks. It's a symbol of misfortune, indicating that someone is in danger. So you don't want to set a place at the table for someone and give them that sign.
I would think not. That sounds pretty bad. And I think we can guess that it's not considered polite to play with your chopsticks, mostly because it's sort of like playing with your food. But does it go deeper than that?
It does. You shouldn't play with your chopsticks like that because it's a gesture that is associated with bagging.
Ah, kind of like shaking a cup of change at people walking down the street or something.
Yep. Also, when you are going into a shared serving dish for a bite of food, that's what you should pick up, a bite. You pick something, you eat it, you don't stir the dish with your chopsticks, or pick or drop and then pick up another piece. It's bad behavior and considered unclean.
That makes a lot of sense. I also know one to share about how to set the chopsticks down when you're not eating with them.
Okay, what should people do?
Well, some restaurants or even people's home place settings will include a tiny little bench to rest the tips of the sticks on, so use that if one is available. Or lay them side by side along the edge of your plate or your bowl if you can easily balance them that way. But do not stick them straight up in your food, especially in a bowl of rice. This is horrible.
It sure is. And why is that?
Well, because that looks exactly like how incense is arranged at a funeral. And I have a funny story to tell about that, actually.
Okay, tell me.
Well, I had an old Chinese colleague and someone who I will not name and shame had prepared a lovely Asian fusion meal, which was a mixture of lots of different kinds of food from Asia. And the food itself was spectacular, but we were kept out of the dining room and couldn't see the place settings until right before dinner. So we walk in and everything is beautiful, but at every place there is a bowl of rice, and guess where the chopsticks are? Straight down the middle. And my Chinese friend was horrified. She lost her breath, her eyes went wide as saucers, and I just very discreetly removed the chopsticks and set them down. And I told my mom later, well, sorry, Mom, didn't mean to out you, but it was a nice meal, regardless. But yes.
Wow, it sounds like that could have gone much better, but I'm glad everyone survived.
Well, for that meal anyway.
Our last tip for good manners as you're eating is to leave just a little food on your plate as a sign of respect. In the West, it's considered polite to clean your plate, to not waste food, but in the East, if you eat every tiny thing and have a clean plate or bowl, people will think you're starving, or at least still hungry, and keep ordering food.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere it's considered polite to make sure people are well fed, but there's just a very different set of social cues here to keep things straight. That brings us to a few quick notes about bad manners, at least according to how we might view things in the West.
Note that although some of the following things do happen, especially in more rural or casual places, I honestly don't see them very often.
I guess I probably just hang out at some rougher places in Yinggying.
Maybe so.
Again, you probably won't see these sorts of things at, say, the Ritz-Carlton down in Shanghai. But first-time visitors here shouldn't be too surprised to see or hear any of the following. Maybe spitting out bones or unwanted food kind of very visibly and sometimes loudly. Also, someone talking while chewing with their mouth is full. Or my personal favorite, clearing their throat like they're trying to expel a demon from their body or something. It's pretty harsh sound, and I could do a good impression of it, but I'll spare everybody the demonstration.
Going back to politeness for a moment. At the beginning of the meal, it's common to ask everyone if there's anything they don't eat, just like the West, to help people with allergies avoid any discomfort. And one last note about the bad manners you just mentioned. It's really not considered polite to make loud noises here either, actually. But what you find is that it is tolerated, ironically, in the name of politeness.
Good to know. And there's one last phrase to learn before we go too, right?
Yes, I call it 酒满茶半, which means liquor full, tea half. It tells you how to properly fill someone's cup. When you are refilling someone's tea, it's polite to fill the cup just a little over the half full, maybe 70%. And for 白酒 or liquor, fill it all the way up.
Okay, now I'm really hungry and thirsty.
All right, we better wrap this up then.
So that was very informative. We learned why it's bad manners to play drums with your chopsticks at the dinner table.
We also covered a lot of other chopstick tips, such as how to pick your food as you eat.
We discussed a few things you might see or hear sometimes that would surprise you, but probably not too often.
And we learned how to best fill a cup for yourself and for other guests.
Okay, so what are we having for lunch?
How about 饺子?
Ooh, that sounds good. Or maybe Xinjiang food.
That sounds good too. Or this Nanjing restaurant across the street that I've been wanting to try.
That place is great.
Okay then, let's get off here. But not before we remind people to subscribe to the show in iTunes or the other favorite podcatcher.
Please share the show with your friends, rate us and review us if you like it, and let us know what topics you'd like to hear us talk about on future episodes.
Thanks again for listening. I'm Yingying Li.
And I'm Brendan Davis. See you next time on How China Works.